feels good to be back here in the Impact Zone, knowing now that I am the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. Kurt Angle, I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I was going to beat the best wrestler to ever step foot inside of a ring. That's right. You are the greatest wrestler, but on these given nights, Cowboy James Storm was just a little bit better. And now, Bobby Roode, at Against All Odds, you're going to have to stand across the ring from me and look me eye to eye, man to man, because I am going to whoop your And all I have to say to you, Bobby Roode, is sorry about your death.
I got screwed at the pay-per-view. I got screwed last week. We, the creatures, we keep getting screwed, right? Let me make this real clear to you, Storm. Nobody's getting a title shot against Bobby Roode until I have my final encounter.
You know, you come out here and you talk about you got screwed. I don't know if you remember a couple of months ago, I got screwed because I was the World Heavyweight Champion and Bobby Roode screwed me first. And you think with all this screwing that he's doing, he got a lot of child support to pay. Can't we all just try to get along for once? I mean, talking about screwing this and screwing that. Come on, guys. I mean, how many lives does this guy have? Bobby Roode escaped with the title. I mean, I'm totally flattered. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally flattered that you're both arguing and bickering over a shot at my World Heavyweight title. I mean, who wouldn't? But, Storm, need I remind you about the stipulation that Sting laid out last week? The winner of you versus Kurt Angle would become the number one contender to the winner of me and Jeff Hardy. Now, you did beat Kurt Angle to become the number one contender. Congratulations. But unfortunately, seeing that there was no finish and no winner to Mr. Hardy and myself, that means that your number one contendership is now null and void. And as far as you're concerned, Jeff, I'm all for giving to the needy. That's what kind of champion that I am. But come on, Jeff. I gave you 2 opportunities in a span of only 5 short days, and both times you failed. So therefore, no more title shots for you either. You found another loophole, didn't you, Bobby? Instead of disqualifying yourself, you just had Bully Ray disqualify you, didn't you? Pretty clever. Pretty clever, Bobby. But you know something? We're going to do something about that tonight. We're going to fix all that. We're going to fix all of it with a number one contenders match for the world title right here in this ring between... Okay, I got you. Between Jeff Hardy, you are correct there. Opponent number 2. Who is opponent number 2? I'm hearing a lot of cowboy chants and a lot of Hardy chants. So tonight, number one contenders match, James Storm, Jeff Hardy, right here in this ring. Ta-ta for now.
And now, more Pro Wrestling Weekly with your host, Ferran Derry.
Sit down, shut up, and listen up.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Ferran Derry back here with you, taking a look back at Impact from this past week and a couple of interesting instances regarding the title picture, and it looks like it's still a little murky with Against All Odds, as in that main event from Impact. James Storm and Jeff Hardy, well, it ended up being a no contest, that number one contender match. Bully Ray beating up both James Storm and Jeff Hardy. So who's the number one contender? We're going to have to tune in to find out. Meanwhile, looking back at Genesis, obviously, as you heard, Jeff Hardy getting screwed at the pay-per-view, winning by disqualification but not winning the title. Kurt Angle, much to my surprise, beating James Storm at the pay-per-view. Matt Morgan and Crimson retaining the tag titles. Abyss, much against my better judgment, beating Bully Ray in the Monsters Ball match. Gail Kim retaining the Knockouts title with a disqualification win. Gunner beating Rob Van Dam. Devon, surprisingly, at least to me, beating the Pope. And Austin Aries, one of the better things going, beating Kid Cash, Jesse Sorensen, and Zema Ion in that four-way match to retain the X Division title. Got half of them right in my predictions starting to go wrong, and something different for 2012. I'm actually going to keep a running tab to see how good or not so good as I think I am as far as getting these pay-per-view picks. So I'll be keeping track of that for the 20 some odd pay-per-views between WWE and TNA. Yeah, quick math. 13 and 12 would be 25. Yes, 25 pay-per-views. I can do math, people. Oh, good stuff. Let's go ahead and get back to the phones. We've got Dan who's been waiting patiently. Dan from Chicago. Welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
What's up, Ron? It's good to be back.
Yeah, good to have you back. What's on your mind?
Well, this when is the Impact gonna go away? Seriously, it is so kind of draining and kind of it's not to get excited about Impact Wrestling at all. It's the same old stuff. And I think somebody in that company is a Phil Collins fan was all the pay-per-views referencing Phil Collins.
Yeah, between Genesis and Against All Odds, that is kind of humorous and ironic that they just happen to go in that direction. Now, the thing with TNA, I mean, their focus, and you've probably noticed this, their focus has been more on the TV shows than they have the pay-per-views, because that's where they generate their the majority of their revenue is through TV. The pay-per-views are just kind of a nice bonus, but TNA treats them as a throwaway.
Right.
So Impact doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon, and it looks like they're kind of doing consistent 1.1 to 1.2 ratings. So, I mean, I guess that's good enough for Spike TV, so it looks like it's going to stick around.
All right. And Brodus Clay, that episode last night reminded me of Seinfeld when Elaine tried to dance.
Yes.
You know that episode where Elaine tried to have that goofy dance and George freaked out at a Christmas party? That's exactly what that was.
That's what Vicky Guerrero was trying to do there. Yes, a dance off between Brodus Clay and Vicky Guerrero, and then William Regal got involved, which I think led to more hilarity.
That was funny. When Regal came out, that was funny. But when Vicky does it, it's just ugh. Poor Eddie's rolling around in his grave, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, William Regal, I think, is really... it's amazing how underrated he is. I mean, he's one of those guys, I know that he hasn't accomplished a lot, but he's one of those guys who, I mean, his career has been just focused upon making other people better, and anytime he goes out there, he entertains the hell out of people.
Yep.
Whether it's in a match, whether it's doing some sort of silly skit that Brian Gewirtz has written up for him, I mean, whatever is handed to him, he takes the ball and runs with it. And, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that.
When I liked that guy was I'm sure everybody liked him, started liking him, is when he did that commissioner role with Tajiri.
Oh, yeah. The stuff with Tajiri that he did was
that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, even just the mispronunciation Umanga. I mean, he had that going on for a little while. I mean, yeah, there are just so many great moments. I mean, they kind of allowed him to flourish and have a personality once they got past all of the Blue Bloods and other stuff from WCW. Lord Steven Regal, if you remember early on in his career.
Oh, yeah. He was boring then, but other than that, his stock is, when he went to WWE, got a lot better. But
although, if he ever gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, I think they'll leave out the real man's man period.
Does he deserve it?
Does he deserve... again, I hate to use the measuring stick of... I mean, if Coco Beware's in there, I mean, I'd put him ahead of Coco Beware. Right,
yeah.
I mean, you might be able to sneak him in a strong class. I mean, this year... not to say that he's necessarily getting inducted this year, but, I mean, considering the three announced names already... I mean, you could probably afford to put a weaker name in there, or at least...
the other guy announced? I missed it.
Well, so far, I mean, it was announced when they were in Mexico. They announced that Mil Mascaras is going to be inducted this year.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I know. They've got to do one of those global picks every once in a while just because, they try to branch outside of the WWE window. And really the only time that I recall seeing Mil Mascaras in the WWE was, I want to say, the 97 Royal Rumble. He was a part of it.
I get you. I got you. I know who he is now. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the man of 1,000 masks or something like that. Yeah. Mil is Spanish for 1,000, at least from what I remember going back to high school Spanish, and Mascaras obviously. But yeah, the other two announcements, Edge.
Right, which I don't agree with at all. Not now.
Yeah, I think the reason they did it this year was to try to, since there isn't really any criteria as far as a waiting period, I think this was WWE's attempt to, in comparison to mainstream sports, make Edge a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I know, but there's so many guys, deserve it more than Edge right now. You think that they would have wanted to wait when WWE wants to go back to Canada for WrestleMania? Because I know that's been a rumor for a little while that they wanted to go to Toronto.
They wanted to go back to Toronto to the... I keep, again, my old school intentions want me to call it the Sky Dome, but the Rogers Center.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Why not wait? It's not fair. I know Owen will never get inducted because of his wife, and I won't use the words that I want to use, but that's garbage. And Rick Rude deserves to be in. This is ridiculous that those two guys get always pushed to the back burner every single year, and Edge, who just retired last year, isn't first ballot Hall of Famer. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you look at the accomplishments, I mean, neither Owen Hart nor Rick Rude was a world champion in WWE. I mean, granted, Rick Rude had that international world heavyweight championship back in was it 93? I want to say right before his injury, 93 into early 94. So, I mean, he had that going for him, and obviously he had that great Intercontinental feud with the Warrior, which ended up turning into a feud for the WWE Championship with Warrior in 90. So, I mean, Rude has the credentials, but I don't know. Does that stack up to Edge?
No. But
I mean, Edge is what, a 10-time world champion?
Yeah.
I know. It's different eras also, so, I mean, you have to factor that into it.
Rude put a good match out of the Warriors' butt. And who could do that? Nobody but Rude.
This is true. Rude, well, I was going to say, the two people who got the greatest matches out of Warrior were Rick Rude and Randy Savage.
Yeah. And we're the Macho Man, I bet you're not going to get inducted this year, which is a crime. Well, we don't know yet, though.
Yeah, true. They only have the three announced, and the other one, which has had a few people. I mean, it's an understandable induction, but also kind of the mechanics and logistics behind it. The Four Horsemen, are going to be inducted.
That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the questions are, all right, Ric Flair is currently a TNA employee.
He's going to be there, though.
I mean, he's going to be there, but they're going to let him up on stage. And obviously, which incarnation, there was kind of debates. All right, obvious no-brainers are J.J. Dillon as the manager, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. And then that fourth person, that's kind of led to some debate. Should it be Ole Anderson? Obviously, they went with Barry Windham. Will he be able to be there? He's had some recent health issues. I know Lex Luger's been interviewed recently, and he's kind of given his blessing on the whole thing. I think it's safe to say, though, we won't be seeing Paul Roma.
No. I despise Lex Luger. I'm not a fan. Ever since the whole... For me, the Elizabeth angle, that's another story for another time. I think he's really... I know you love him. I know a lot of fans love him. I think there was something more to that situation. Like I said, we could get into that another time.
Yeah, and I have to bring it out at some point. I got to speak with him a couple months ago, and I need to get that out at some point. But I got to interview him for about 10 minutes, and I mean he's very candid. I mean I actually have his number. I should give him a call. just to see, I mean, maybe bring him on and, kind of see what he will and won't say about that. Because, I mean, that obviously has been a great deal of controversy. I mean, his career has obviously had a lot of up and downs, and, that certainly everything with Miss Elizabeth is something that's, I don't know, it's been a black mark on his career, to say the least.
Definitely. I've heard him on other interviews, and he's just very wishy-washy. I don't know. It's really weird. I know a lot of, like I said, a lot of fans like him. There's something about him I do not trust and do not like, and I'm sorry to say that. I know he's one of your favorites.
Yeah, he always has been, and I guess getting to meet him, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, getting to meet him and actually talk with him, and I mean, and like I said, he was very candid, very very open. I wasn't even sure. I was kind of surprised I could actually get to talk to him, let alone figuring out what exactly to say to him. What do you say to one of your childhood idols? It's
right. I know. Yeah.
Especially when it kind of gets thrown upon you like that.
Yep. I agree. But no, I'm excited for the Royal Rumble. I'm going to throw out a pick out there. It might be a little crazy, but this is how we roll in your radio show.
Of course, yeah. I'm all over the place.
I'm going to throw out the name Randy Orton because I think it's funny that he's now going to be on SmackDown for some reason on Friday night, and my wife pointed out that the Royal Rumble's in St. Louis. How fitting. Yeah,
Royal Rumble's in his hometown now. He's obviously been out with an injury as of late.
What is it? But now, because there's that be a swerve, because that be a situation where the WWE's trying to swerve us, and he's not as hurt as he. And it's going to be a John Cena thing where he comes back and everyone's going to go nuts.
Except it's quicker. In this case, it's a little more obvious. I don't think they're trying to recreate lightning in a bottle by surprising everybody like they did in 2008 by having Cena come back from that injury. Mainly because in this case, I don't know. It's not like if it was in Boston, it would be a little bit more obvious back then. But since it was in Madison Square Garden, and you'd think if anybody would have known, I mean, nothing against Philadelphia, but I know that the New York, the Madison Square Garden fans, they tend to have their fingers are a little bit deeper on the pulse of everything going on the insides of wrestling. So if they didn't even know, I mean that's one of those non-recreatable moments. So I don't think they're necessarily trying to go for that. Would it surprise me if Orton made an appearance? No, not even in the slightest.
Right.
Do I think Orton's going to win the Rumble based on that? No.
Okay. Do you think, going back to that Cena thing, do you think that the Triple H, the guys in the ring, knew he was going to come back? Because they looked shocked. I think they were just playing along.
Hey, it convinced me. I mean, I really want to get more into this. I mean, this is all going to be an in-depth thing next week. I mean, looking back at favorite Royal Rumble moments. Right. So, save some of this for next week.
I didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, that's all right. I mean, obviously, we want to talk about, next week about the Rumble coming up and obviously some great past moments. And, I mean, we're already dipping into quite a few of them, but... I'll have to do like another blog, like a Fave 5 Royal Rumble moments or something like that, or Fave 5 Royal Rumble matches. I don't know. My brain's always running with ideas. It's kind of hard to get them down on paper or onto a computer or things like that.
Well, I'll let you go. I didn't mean to keep you on. So I've been calling in a little bit of time. I'll be on the air more so in the upcoming year, and we'll talk. Greatly
appreciated as always, Dan. Great call.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much for the call. Now, I teased it earlier. We're going to go ahead and go to this here. Obviously, at the open of the show, you heard CM Punk's verbal tirade against John Laurinaitis. I mean, calling him vanilla and boring, and that he never amounted to anything, and pretty much calling him pathetic. And right after that, John Laurinaitis had a response, and it was certainly an interesting one. And, here it is.
My name is Mr. John Laurinaitis. I am the Executive Vice President of Town Relations and the interim, soon-to-be, the permanent General Manager of Monday Night Raw. I am not pathetic, and I will not be intimidated by CM Punk.
Admit it! Just admit it, Johnny. Have the decency to admit that you intend to screw Punk at the Royal Rumble. You know, you walk around here, you act like a pious, self-righteous sycophant, which is fancy New York Times bestseller speak for saying you, John Laurinaitis, are a kiss ass.
Who the hell do you think you are, Foley? Who in the hell do you think you're talking to? You want to know if I'm going to screw CM Punk?
No, I want to know.
You're damn right I will. Okay? I do my job and I do it well. I am sick and tired of being disrespected. Okay? I'm sick and tired of being pushed around. And I'm sick and tired of being bullied. Each and every week, I put on the most entertaining show for the WWE Universe. And I'm not appreciated for it. I'm not going to take it anymore. And I'm not going to take it from you.
All right, good. You don't have to take it.
I'm sick and tired.
And, of course, there the microphone being struck onto Mick Foley, who was there in the ring. One of the best promos I've heard from John Laurinaitis thus far, and definitely an expression of frustration. He's mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. It almost sounded like that was the direction that he was going in. Let's take a quick look at some Facebook feedback. Mike actually chiming in from a week ago when we weren't on the air here. He said, wasn't there talk about bringing back the WWE Women's Tag Team titles? He talks about remembering the Glamour Girls, having them back in the first ever Survivor Series. As many divas as there are, and I think I commented on this if I remember right, I think at this point WWE's best bet is to try to add value and prestige to the titles that they have before adding others. I mean, that's why they consolidated a bunch of the belts 10 years ago. Otherwise, we'd still have the women's title as opposed to the divas, along with the European title, the hardcore title. But all of those have gone by the wayside to try to add a little bit more value to the belts that are there. I mean, look at the tag team titles. They've been completely cheapened. I mean, when have we really... I mean, the Divas title, they haven't exactly gotten a few to sink their teeth into. Cody Rhodes, he hasn't had a whole lot going on with the Intercontinental belt, so he's held on to it for a while. But other than that, now we've gotten 2 title changes in the last week between the tag and the U.S. titles. And, I mean, Jack Swagger, what has he done recently? He's kind of been a jobber to the stars. So it's kind of hard to say. I don't think bringing the women's tag team title back, not necessarily the greatest idea. Especially look at what the Knockouts tag title, what little's been done with that over in TNA. Granted, their roster is probably about 1/5 of the divas that are 1/5 of the WWE divas as far as number of wrestlers. But I don't know. I'm not exactly a fan of bringing those back necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily the right time for that. And Mike also chimed in actually about a few minutes ago. He wants to know what my thoughts are on Ric Flair attending the WWE Hall of Fame for the Four Horsemen induction. And TNA wanted to sue WWE if he does. It says, I believe he is a legend. TNA should let it go, and has been in the business for a long time and paved the way. Yeah, I think in this case, there's no reason. I mean, how can you have an induction of the Four Horsemen without Ric Flair? I mean, Ric Flair was that group. I mean, as much as you want to say for the Enforcer, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, all the other members, I mean, the main constant was Ric Flair. I mean, even going into the different incarnations later into the 90s where you had Dean Malenko and Steve Mongo McMichael. Wouldn't it be funny if he made an appearance? But no, Ric Flair was that constant. And I would like to think that, again, for what's best for business, that the two organizations can get their head out of their respective, wares and just allow Flair to be up there, allow him to soak in that moment and kind of, rekindle kind of get a mulligan for the individual Hall of Fame induction that he since cheapened by wrestling in TNA all the way up to 62. Actually, he'll be closing in on 63 years in about 6 weeks or so. I don't know. That's kind of where I feel they should go with that. Anyway, let's go ahead and take care of our second bit of business, come back, take care of some news and notes, and make our way out of here. It's amazing how quickly the hour goes here on Pro Wrestling Weekly. Let me give you the numbers. 949-3232 or toll free at 888-922-2149. Those are the ways to get to us. Also, there's the Facebook feedback. Still some time to get that in, as Mike has done. Just look us up, like us at WBCB Pro Wrestling Weekly. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.